Hello, all. Welcome to the Lunar Sea Spire Cartoon Fan Podcast. This is episode 279, and today we'll be talking about Summer Camp Island's Saxophone Come Home. I'm GC13.
And I'm David.
You know, my absolute favorite thing about this episode is the whole you have Summer Camp Guide Winter Edition. I love it.
There was a hat, a Santa hat, on one of the trees, and it wasn't even one of the trees that had eyes. I love those little details in this show. But, despite the soft, wintry setting and the somewhat really pleasing saxophone noises we got in the episode, there was quite a bit of distress happening for me. Summer Camp Island is really, even just in episode 4, coming around with a hook shot and just giving me a little bit of feels seeing Oscar get bullied. I've actually been rewatching a lot of Hey Arnold lately, and a lot of the sort of like settler bullying here that happens kind of reminded me of that show, because those kids have a real herd mentality and gang up on anyone who displays any weakness in Hey Arnold. And here, there's like a targetedness to the Oscar days since he ran into something sign that is a little more subtle. I feel like a little more modern, because Max is, friends with Oscar, but they're still willing to, they think it's an in-joke and harmless, whereas obviously Oscar doesn't feel so good about it.
Yeah, Oscar would much rather the sign not be there, but I mean, that's the great thing about Summer Camp Island. Even when Oscar is being bullied mercilessly, it's just portrayed so gently.
Remember, kids, bullying is fine. It's gentle.
Yes.
No, but he did have a great older friend in this episode.
Yeah, he'd never had an older brother before.
Yeah, I thought that was a really sweet line. I'm sure your younger brother's missing you, sort of, he says, fishing, hoping for the answer that he doesn't.
See, I don't know. I think Oscar was kind of complicated. He wanted Saxophone gone, but he also liked having him around. Like, Saxophone's that cool friend you don't want to see go, you know?
Yeah, I love that he, there's a different version of this episode on another show where it's like, oh, I get a new friend and they're cool, but then, oh, they have all these annoying aspects and now I need to get rid of them. But here, that doesn't happen. Although Oscar doesn't have any sleep for like 5 nights in a row, Saxophone is still really cool, even despite the little annoying things he does, like eat everything he sees and snore with the saxophone noises, which were still kind of chill, actually. Chill snoring noises. But, and the fact that Saxophone helped Oscar overcome the bullying that he was experiencing by looking really rad floating. Although I feel like Hedgehog explained to everybody how Yetis turn invisible, so I feel like everyone should have caught on, but they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, you really, it's like, Oscar, you're so graceful, it's like your feet aren't even touching the ground. They should have had a line in there like that. I guess they thought it would be too obvious. Also, you really think that after the first night, Oscar would have said something like, hey, Saxophone, how about maybe you sleep outside because you snore super loud and I did not sleep at all last night?
Yeah, there was definitely a lack of, in a show that I think the previous episode we covered, we talked about how good the characters seem to be at, like, efficiently communicating their feelings to one another. But Oscar is not quite that way, especially with new people. He did not feel comfortable telling Saxophone about his snoring, which I'm sure Saxophone would have accommodated.
I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense, because this is something you won't learn about Oscar until the second batch of 20 episodes, but he really takes hosting very seriously, and I guess he viewed Saxophone as his guest, so trust me, he puts himself out like just as bad for other official guests, so I think this actually fits with what they later show to be his character.
And that's kind of cool then. Also, talking about Saxophone, saying he's a good guest, this is my excellent transition into talking about how much I love the voice actor for Saxophone, who is, I am dead sure without having looked it up, the same voice actor of Greg in Over the Garden Wall. Or not Greg, that's Wirt? That's Wirt from Over the Garden Wall. Greg's the little brother. Honestly ends up playing a very similar role here in that he's a teen with feelings. And this actor is really good he has a really like straightforward style, a straightforward delivery that feels, well, it fits this show very well in the fact that every character just sounds very honest. But it's also hilariously, like, it's so straightforward that when he's talking about any of his emotional problems or, like, oh, my parents talk in that weird language, but I don't, I'm different than the other Yetis. Just reminded me of, yeah.
But no, yeah, so you're right. It is Elijah Wood who voices both Saxophone and Wirt. So that's neat.
Yeah, that guy needs more roles. Maybe the Saxophone, I guess Saxophone's not coming back because Saxophone becomes a normie.
I love the fact that they have the adults do that wah 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 like it's Charlie Brown or something, except it's Yetis. They're talking violins and saxophones.
Yeah, I really like that saxophone language they had going on. It just fits with the Summer Camp Island pastiche, as Rebecca Sugar loves saying, which is where I learned the word pastiche. But there's a great little pastiche in that show, and it fits with the, like, sort of other sound effects and musicalizations that happen in the show.
You were talking about small details you really liked. There was one scene with Oscar and Saxophone outside the cabins at night where it's like you just have a tree leaning over like it's witnessing some hot gossip or something.
Man, that aspect of the show never ceases to delight me, that everything is alive. And also, the borders for that are really important because Saxophone almost eats some of Oscar's friends who look exactly like food but have faces. So that's an apparently important distinction to make. Sometimes the marshmallows you may eat are alive, so don't. And sometimes it's fine. If it's in the mess hall, if it's being served in the mess hall, you're probably good.
Yeah. Also, I did like the unicorns playing every time they transitioned to the mess hall.
So I was kind of trying to think about, maybe this isn't always the right question to ask with a show like Summer Camp Island, but I like thinking of, like, what is the point of this episode? Like, is it, as far as either does it do something for a character or does it do something for the audience? Like, when you create a kid's show, you can't help but think that, at least even if there's not a lesson in an episode, kids shows have the ability to establish norms and, like, ways of thinking for kids that still matter. So, like, you can't, like, the television's not always inconsequential. And I feel like Summer Camp Island isn't just about slice of life without also showing kids something important about, like, how to process your emotional self or how to deal with friends or awkwardness or whatever. And there's some little meta thing going on with how Saxophone sort of turns into an adult at the end. And, it's this sort of situation of having this close older person in your life who maybe helps you out through some difficult moments you have, like, being teased by your friends or whatever. And then you sort of lose them because whatever, people becoming adults mean they move away or they go to college or whatever. And, the way Oscar kind of, like, hangs on and still, even if Saxophone has forgotten him, Oscar still finds the fact that he helped him overcome, he made him go from 0 to 1, as he says, for the number of days since he bumped into a chair. I thought that was a sweet.
I'll tell you what I was thinking of when you mentioned that. Since part of the reason we're doing Summer Camp Island today is because I need a refuge from all the sad stuff like Infinity Train Season 2 or Steven Universe Future. I think Steven might have been a little bit better off if he had seen this episode and learns that it's okay for your older friends to grow away from you.
Actually, this episode does perfectly tie in with Steven's recent complicated feelings at everyone moving away. But of course, well, both Oscar still has friends, still at the camp, and Steven still has friends too, but actually, in another sense, Steven is kind of losing everyone except the gems. I mean, at least from his perspective. Anyway, well, I won't go too deep into Steven Universe Future here.
I mean, he's doing a bad job holding on.
Yeah. Oh, also, shout out to Susie having, relatable contacts problems. she can't see who the big hairy camper was.
And I guess Alice and Betsy both know that's the Yeti, and they're like, whatever. I mean, they both look. I see Betsy especially looking like, I'm not gonna say anything, but I just love Susie's line. Oh, these kids keep getting grosser.
Yeah, same.
I don't know, man. Just ice hockey, on a frozen lake where the goaltender eats the puck, I'm getting flashbacks to Winnie the Pooh.
Whoa. What Winnie the Pooh episode does Pooh pick up a puck and eat it while playing hockey?
I just looked it up. It is an episode of the New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh called The Magic Earmuffs. And I do remember quite vividly that Eeyore, as the goaltender, eats the cookie that they are using as a hockey puck. And just like in Summer Camp Island, the eating of their hockey puck causes them to have to disband the game. Although in Saxophone Come Home, Saxophone just grabs the puck and eats it. In The Magic Earmuffs, the puck was hit way too fast and just flies right down Eeyore's throat.
Well, yeah, I was about to say, oh, well, maybe it is a reference somehow to that show. Like, animators sometimes do that, but now the situations don't seem quite so similar.
I mean, it's pretty close. I don't know. I mean, what are the odds, really? And especially since neither show takes place at winter very often, this is just a random winter episode out of nowhere. Although Pooh does have more winter episodes than Summer Camp Island does.
Maybe you should at one of the show creators. What even is the show creator name of Summer Camp Island? I need to get hip with the crew.
Julia Pott.
You should at Pot on Twitter and ask about Pooh.
I mean, you want to talk great old school cartoons? New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, right there for you.
Yeah, which streaming service is that on in 2020?
It better be on Disney Plus, or else there's no reason for anyone to subscribe. Nothing was really made of Oscar going from 1 to 5. I guess going from 0 to 1 was really that much of a feat.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's a super clumsy kid.
And also, he's not paying any attention at all. Oh, speaking of Oscar always reading, I love, the pages must have got stuck together with maple syrup. And then she licks some more of the maple syrup. There's a quality to the voice acting, especially in these earlier episodes, where it's just, you could accuse the voice actor of not really trying very hard, but I think it's very deliberate because it makes the characters all sound so chill and laid back.
Yeah, there's actually, I have had a very similar feeling recently with going back and watching the first season of She-Ra on Netflix, because they specifically have the main character Adora talk in this way, where it's just so, like, it almost feels like it's against the normal voice direction you would give someone. Like, I don't know, like in cartoons, people typically get these like defined voices for the characters, right? And like if you think about a really classic character like SpongeBob has a certain voice that is, even when he like says things like "I am a man" and gets really serious or honest, emotionally vulnerable. There's something about this like laid back, goofy kind of, it's not even goofy, just like this really honest sounding delivery that sometimes just sounds like somebody saying something instead of like trying to act it, Like it almost feels like it wasn't even acted, which is really the best kind of acting of all.
Again, you're mentioning She-Ra. I need to watch that. Need to watch Hilda.
Yes. Well, you can join us right after this, because me and Sophie are talking about She-Ra next. You can hear about season 1.
But yeah, I think we hit the high notes. I guess the last thing that I was wondering about the episode was, as usual, when I'm watching an episode again with the intent to record a podcast episode about it, I'm always thinking a little differently, and so I notice things that have eluded me before. What I noticed this time was, how Hedgehog said that, usually teenagers, run off into the woods before their transition into adulthood because they get kind of crazy at that point. I wonder if that was why Saxophone was feeling like he needed space from his parents, like he wanted to be away from the Yeti meadow.
Oh, because he just needs that, like, his in the woods moment.
Well, yeah, you just got to be away from the other Yetis. He's going to go a little loco, go a little crazy.
Yeah, that almost, I don't, if that was also the exact phrasing that Hedgehog said it in the show, that's also a little, see, I just noticed today that the show actually has a PG rating, and I was like, really? Summer Camp Island is given the freedom with PG? That's so strange. I can't believe this show's PG, though. That's my, fans of this show, find me where this show even walks close to the border of being a PG show. Not every Cartoon Network show is even PG. Like, it was a thing that was kind of standard for one time, but I don't think, Like, OKKO, I don't think was PG. Maybe I'm wrong.
Like I see the PG rating slapped on everything nowadays. Like Infinity Train is getting the PG rating. That's the same rating professional wrestling gets. Gravity Falls was only Y7. Infinity Train only deserves a Y7.
Well, that's the thing. Like, well, yeah. I mean, Legend of Korra had a scene with, like someone getting seriously asphyxiated on screen, and it was Y7. But whatever.
Yeah, like there's no excuse for especially a show like Summer Camp Island to be PG. I mean, you could probably get away with just a Y rating on Summer Camp Island. Actually,
Yeah.
I don't think you even need the 7.
I don't. Back in the day, like, I don't know, like Adventure Time, regular show. I feel like were the first shows that started being rated PG, because the era before that on Cartoon Network, I swear stuff was Y7. We should do a whole YouTube on what gives shows certain ratings, and what do they do with the ratings?
We could do a video analyzing the ratings. That's a thing. So, overall, what'd you think?
Saxophone come back. Does Saxophone really not come back? I'm sure the Yetis come back in this show.
Yeah, he comes back home. That's what he does. He comes back home.
2 seasons of this show and we never see him again. Oh well.
I mean,
I still want to hear that voice actor again.
Well, we see Yetis from time to time, but would we really know which one was Saxophone? We can't really speak that language, so.
No, we cannot.
Anyway, guys, that's us on Saxophone Come Home. Join us next week. Until then, I'm GC13.
And I'm David. Don't forget to leave us a review on, wherever you listen to podcasts, or even if it's on YouTube.
Later, everybody. Our opening and closing music is by Mark Soto. For more cartoon-related content, please visit lunarseaspire.com.